Hello guys, so I've got 9 books from Canongate. 2 of them are review copies, proof copies, and the other 7 are already published, so they're kind of like gifts. My contact at Canongate, Anna, said that I could look through the catalogue and request some books, so I did that. I've got 2 that are proofs, that are ARC copies, and 7 that have already been published. So I'm just going to show you them. I'm also going to read the press release for every book. So yeah, I don't know how long this video is going to be, but you might want to get a cup of coffee or something. So let's start. First book I have is The Awakening by Kate Chopin. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it has a really nice cover. And this was first published in... Okay, it doesn't say when it was first published. Or does it? Let me check. Oh, it just says published in 2014, so... yeah. But anyway, so I'll read you the press release for this one. So it says, over one long, languid summer, Edna Pontellier, fettered by marriage and motherhood, becomes acquainted with Robert Lebrun. As the days shorten and the temperature begins to drop, Edna succumbs to Robert's devotion. But in the thrall of this ever-strengthening desire, Edna begins to realise the true extent of her psychological, social and sexual confinement, and its devastating consequences for her future. This tender, brilliant and seductive novel is as beautifully written as it is politically engaging. The Awakening is widely regarded as one of the forerunners of feminist literature, alongside Tolstoy's Anna Karenina and Flaubert's Madame Bovary. First published in the United States in 1899, this radical novel sent shockwaves through American society and continues to speak to readers 100 years later. So that sounds really interesting, actually, and I really like this cover. I think this is why it's being published again, because it's having cover change. But I really like this cover. It's really nice, and inside it's really nice as well. Look at that. That's very nice. Yeah, so that's the first one. And this is being published in this cover on the 7th of August for $7.99. 7th of August. And it's 320 pages. So, yeah. It's about feminism and stuff. So, I don't really mind that. I'm kind of excited to read that one. Okay, and the second review book I have from Canongate is The Last Banquet by Jonathan Grimwood, and I really like this cover. If you look, the guy is he's got a tiger face. It's cool. Anyway, so I'll read you the press release for this one. Starting life in the gutter, Jean-Marie Dumont's fate is changed after an unlikely encounter finds him patronage, and he is sent to military academy. Despite his frugal roots and thanks to wit and courage in great measure, he rises through the ranks of 18th century French society and becomes a diplomat and spy, feasting with lords, ladies and even kings. But it is not just betterment he seeks. His passion, political intrigue and international adventure stems from a single obsession, the pursuit of the perfect taste. From humble beetles to three-snake billibays, Jean-Marie has a desire to know what anything and everything tastes like. But beyond the palace walls, revolution is in the air and the country is clamouring with a hunger of a different kind. So I thought this sounded really interesting, so I requested it. And this comes out in the 3rd of July, so I think I'll have to get this one read pretty soon, actually. How many pages is it? I don't know how many pages it is, actually. Okay, without the end notes, it's 353 pages. So this is the one I'll probably read next, because it's a review book and it comes out on the 3rd of July. So it's before The Awakening. so I don't have to read The Awakening for a little while. So, and then Canongate sent me a whole trilogy, which I wasn't expecting. I mean, I requested them, but I didn't think they were going to send me all 3, and they did. So that's awesome. And it's the Last Werewolf trilogy by Glenn Duncan. So we have The Last Werewolf, Tallulah Rising, and By Blood We Live. And these spines all match, and they're beautiful, and the covers are awesome as well. I love these covers. Yeah, and they look really good. And I'll read you what they are about. And they are already published. All of them are already published. Yeah, so I'll read you what they're about. It says... Oh, okay. This is describing the 3rd book. So I don't want to ruin anything for myself, actually. So I'm not going to read this press release. I'm going to read the blurb of the 1st book. But these were... The last book was published 6th of February this year. So they are all already out. So yeah, I'll read you the blurb of the first one, The Last Werewolf. So it says, for 2 centuries, Jacob Marlowe has wandered the world, enslaved by his lunatic appetites and tormented by the memory of his first and most monstrous crime. Now, the last of his kind, he knows he can't go on. But as Jake counts down to his demise, a violent murder and an extraordinary meeting plunge him back into the desperate pursuit of a life. So, it sounds really good, and the covers are really nice, and I'm really excited to read it. I mean, I've heard it's like kind of science fiction horror. It's kind of like science fiction horror, I believe. I'm not too sure, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, I really like the covers, and I thought it sounded really interesting. And the next book I have is I'm Not Scared, and this is by Niccolo Amaniti. I think that's how you pronounce it, Amaniti. This has a really nice cover as well, actually. I really like this cover. Anyway, and this says, one relentlessly hot summer, 6 children explore the scorched wheat fields that enclose their tiny Italian village. When the gang find a dilapidated farmhouse, 9-year-old Michele Amitrano makes a discovery so momentous he dare not tell a soul. It is a secret that will force Michele to question everything and everyone around him. So that sounds really interesting, actually, and it's not very long. It is... How long is it? It's 245 pages, so that's not very long. Yeah, and this was published on the 20th of May 2010 in paperback. So that's already out as well. I then have... There's only 3 left, guys, don't worry. I then have the paperback version of A Million Ways to Die in the West by Seth MacFarlane. And I actually don't mind this cover. It's the movie cover, but I actually don't mind it. I think it looks quite awesome. And the press release says, mild-mannered sheep farmer Albert Stark is fed up with the harsh life of the American frontier, where it seems everything and anything can kill you. Duels at high noon, barroom brawls, poisonous snakes, tumbleweed abrasions, something called toefoot, even a trip to the outhouse. Yes, there are a million ways to die in the wild, wild west, and Albert plans to avoid them all. Some people think that makes him a coward. Albert calls it common sense. But when his girlfriend dumps him, Albert decides to fight back, even though he can't shoot, ride, or throw a punch. Fortunately, he teams up with a beautiful gunslinger who's tough enough for the both of them. Unfortunately, she's married to the biggest, meanest, most jealous badass on the frontier. Turns out Albert has just discovered 1,000,001 ways to die in the West. Yeah, so I think that actually sounds... really interesting, and I'm excited to read it. It says Seth MacFarlane will be in the UK at the end of May, though press opportunities may be limited. So I don't know if he's doing any signings, but if he is, I will go and get it signed. Because I also love Seth MacFarlane. I love Family Guy, I love American Dad, I love Ted. And this sounds really awesome. It's not very many pages. It's quite short. It's only 211 pages, and the text is quite big, so I'm excited to read this one. And this came out 22nd of May this year. So that is already out. Sorry, I'm trying to put the press release back in the cover. That can be a mission sometimes. And then I have The Goddess Chronicle by Natsuo Korino. This is the guy, is it a guy or a woman, who wrote... Okay, I can't find the picture, author picture. This is the person who wrote the... what were those books? I think there was Out and Grotesque and The Real World. I think that's what he wrote, or she. And this says, the press release says, in a place like no other, on an island in the shape of a teardrop, two sisters are born into a family of the Oracle. Kamiku, with creamy skin and almond eyes, is admired far and wide. Namima, small but headstrong, learns to live in her sister's shadow. On her 6th birthday, Kamiku is presented with a feast of sea serpent egg soup, sashimi and salted fish, and a string of pure pearls. Kamiku has been chosen as the next oracle, while Namima is shocked to discover she must serve the goddess of darkness. So begins an adventure that would take Namima from her first experience of love to the darkness of the underworld. But what happens when she returns to the island for revenge? The Goddess Chronicle is an exquisitely dark tale based on the Japanese myth of Izanami and Izanagi by the queen of Japanese crime fiction. A fantastical, fabulous tour de force, it is a tale as old as the earth about ferocious love and bitter revenge. The latest in the acclaimed Canongate Myths series. So this sounds really interesting, actually. And I'm actually really excited to read it. And they live on, like, an island in the shape of a teardrop, which sounds awesome. Yeah, and this one came out 3rd of January this year in paperback. Oh, no, that was hardback. But this is the paperback, and it's got a much nicer cover. Like, look at that cover, and then compare it to the hardback cover. Do you know what I mean? Like, that cover is so much nicer. And yeah, I'm excited to read this. This isn't very many pages either, 309. And it has a number at the top here, so maybe it's part of a series, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I really like the cover and the spine, and it sounds really good. Oh, we're actually at the final book now. So you may remember a while ago I bought The Crane Wife by Patrick Ness in Asda really cheap, in the paperback form. And I was looking on Canongate's website, and I saw that they did the hardback version. So I requested it, and they sent me it. So this is the hardback. It's beautiful. It looks really nice. And that's the back, which is awesome. It's got like a volcano, and the spine is really nice. And I love it. And without the dust jacket, it's just plain. But when you open this out, it's like a whole picture, which is what I love. I love when publishers do this. It just makes it look really cool. And the press release says, one night, George Duncan, a decent man, a good man, is woken by a noise in his garden. Impossibly, a great white crane has stumbled to earth, shot through its wing by an arrow. Unexpectedly moved, George helps the bird, and from the moment he watches it fly off, his life is transformed. The next day, a kind but enigmatic woman walks into George's shop. Suddenly, a new world opens up for George, and one night she starts to tell him the most extraordinary story. Wise, romantic, magical, and funny, The Crane Wife is a hymn to the creative imagination and a celebration of the destructive and redemptive power of love. So yeah, that sounds really good. I'm just going to put the dust jacket back on. Yeah, I think it sounds really good, and it's got a beautiful cover. So I am excited to read this. So I might be giving away my paperback of The Crane Wife, actually. I might do a giveaway. But yeah, there you go. So those are all the books I got from Canongate recently. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, let me know by liking and subscribing if you want to. And let me know if you have any of these books, if you've read any of them, you know, because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Okay, so I know it was a long video, I'm sorry about that. But thank you for sticking with me and watching this, and see you again soon, and happy reading, obviously. Hey, the camera did focus.